very pleasant good evening. It's time for Startup Talk. Let's see. Small Business Florida. Alias Small Business Florida with the one and only Tom Kindred.
That's right. Hey, Tom Kindred or Brulane or something like that. Kindred.
Yeah, well, brand new name for the show.
Brand new name for the show. I like it.
Yeah.
So welcome to another segment and installment of Small Biz Florida. The show designed to assist and help Treasurer and Resource Coast residents who want to start, grow, or accelerate their business. As I always say, what a great place it is to own and operate a business along the beautiful Research and Treasure Coast. We will spend time during our hour together this evening to highlight and create awareness regarding the very powerful business assistance and support programs that exist right here in our community at our very own Indian River State College. I am Tom Kindred, and I serve as the Regional Director for the Florida Small Business Development Center here at Indian River State College. Underwriters for this segment of Small Biz Florida are the Florida Small Business Development Center at IRSC, engaged at every stage of enterprise, and our good friends at Express Printing of Port St. Lucie. So, Greg, new name, same night of the week, but...
And a great second publication, my friend.
Well, you stole my thunder, Greg. I was going.
Wow.
There it is. Where's the camera?
Yeah.
Look at that.
It looks good.
There's the camera. Second issue of Treasure Coast Business is out. It's on the streets, full of all kinds of incredible business stories from around the Treasure Coast. Again, cover story sort of deals with the advanced manufacturing industry. It's called Made on the Treasure Coast. You got to read this story. What an incredible story. I challenge folks to, when they read it, to say, I knew that. It was made here. Just featuring of half a dozen companies that are making things right here on the Treasure Coast that you probably didn't know about.
Greg Enns worked his magic.
He did, and a great story about the craft brew. Small breweries are hopping and flourishing across the Treasure Coast, and actually there might have been a little story about this radio show.
Yeah, I think there was a little thing about startup talk.
Look at there.
Look at there. Not bad. Not bad.
I know. Stay tuned for all things business, and we hope you do. Right here on Small Biz Florida on WPSL and WSTU. So,
and yes, Dr. Massey, you did make the publication.
Yes, he did. He made the publication. His photograph is in there. He was a guest on this very show. So,
okay, now how do we get this?
Well, you can either call Indian River Magazine to get your copy of it, and I'm sure someplace. Oh my gosh! See, I'm not like a lawyer. I didn't know the answer to the question you asked me. Visit IndianRiverStore.com and or let's see, is there a phone number here on the inside?
I can give you Alan Osteen's cell number.
Yeah, we'll give you Alan's number. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll make a deal with you. You call me, and I'll bring you a magazine. So
there
you can
go.
You can call me at 462-7631, or you can always get me at Kindred, Kindred, Kindred at IRSC.edu, and say, Tom, I want a bunch of those second issues of Treasure Coast Business, and I will be happy to bring you some. But great publication. You'll be seeing it out on the streets. And we'll be happy to add you to the mailing list for the next issue, which will be coming out in late January, early February.
You never know. CenterState may even put some in their branches.
CenterState, you might be able to get an issue or two at CenterState. So anyway, great. I'm glad you brought that up, Greg. Great. Second issue of Treasure Coast Business is out. A lot of great business news. Our kind of catch phrase on this is the well-informed read Treasure Coast Business. So anyway, Greg, do you have Steve? Do you have a copy?
I do not, but
there,
I do
there
now.
You go, Steve.
I do
See,
now.
Look at there.
I do
Just
now.
distribution happening right here on the radio. Steve Waters from CenterState Bank now has his second issue of Treasure Coast Business. So again, Greg, how are things in your world? Everything's all right?
Doing well.
We're what season are we in sports?
We're
hot and heavy,
winding down volleyball, and our basketball team hits the road Saturday for a triple header in Orlando, which includes Florida State. We'll figure out what we're made of after that game.
I guess so.
And then I think we're playing North Florida too. So
Okay,
yeah, it's yeah.
All right, just a couple of quick notes before we get to our first guest. And by the way, my first guest tonight is Mr. Steve Waters of CenterState Bank. Steve is just an incredible supporter of the Florida SBDC at IRSC, an incredible supporter of the CCTI at IRSC. Steve has been a good friend to the program and a good friend to the college, and certainly a mover and shaker within the banking business around our parts. So welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you, Tom. Thrilled to be here.
Real quickly, before we get started, I just want to point out two classes coming up that are really kind of cool. We're back to being able to offer QuickBooks training, which is really an important class for small business owners and operators.
Sign Carol up.
I'm going to sign her up before I leave. It all gets underway. It starts in October the 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th. So again, the first night of class is October the 21st. It takes place on a Monday and a Wednesday, 4 nights from 5:30 to 8:30. Professional development for QuickBooks. The workshop's designed to introduce students to the functions of QuickBooks accounting software, along with some basic accounting terminology that will aid in the usage of the program. So again, been a while since we've offered that class, but it is back on the schedule, and it is an important class for small business owners and operators. So
I think it's been a couple of years.
It's been a
or
while.
Maybe a little bit longer.
We've got a great instructor back, so good things. And then also, and we'll talk a little bit about this with Steve, but I want to go ahead and throw it out here early. We're launching a profit mastery class, which is incredible class for those who want to learn more about their financials and have a better understanding of financials. Very powerful program, Profit Mastery. Really helps companies drive financial performance in the business. Again, just an incredible class for those folks that own and operate a small business. That's all going to get underway November the 15th. It basically includes 16 hours of training. We realize it's tough for small business owners to take that kind of time out of the business, but we do it in 4 half days. So it's easy. You take it one bite at a time, but four half days at 4 hours a pop, 16 hours, but well worth the class. And again, thanks to our partnership with CenterState, they have been generous enough to offer some scholarships to this program. It's normally about a $499 class, but we've got some scholarships. So I encourage folks, small business owners and operators, to get in touch with me at the SBDC or go to that IRSCBiz.com site and look up Profit Mastery class because that's going to be an incredible program. So two powerful small business programs coming up this month. So
there's that word popping up again, profit.
That profit, I know. I wasn't very used to that in my business. Did the best I could.
So now, wait a minute. That starts in November then, right?
Yeah, the Profit Mastery starts November the 19th, and the QuickBooks is October. So
cool. All right, good stuff.
To get involved in both of those. Now, I want to quickly turn, because we've got a lot to talk about with our good friend Steve Waters. Again, Steve is with CenterState Bank, and I can't thank CenterState and Steve enough, and his team, and Celia and all that he works with, our good friend Mike Brown Jr. and all the folks I'm forgetting my Nancy Arledge. Gosh, Nancy takes care of me all the time. Yeah, so a good team over at CenterState Bank, and we do appreciate the partnership. So again, welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to be here.
Start us off just really quick, Steve. A little bit of your pathway to banking. You've been in this space for a while.
Right. Well, I'm originally from North Carolina and graduated from the University of North Carolina at Wilmington and went into banking in North Carolina for a small community bank. But SunTrust, it was actually Sun Bank at the time, brought me to Florida, and eventually I took over as regional for the Treasure Coast for SunTrust. And that has led me to Harbor Community, and then to now CenterState, who merged with Harbor. And CenterState is a bank that's growing, and as we all want to be with a company that's growing, this bank was founded roughly 20 years ago, and that's about how long I've been in Florida, is a little over 20 years. And CenterState has gone from basically a $200 million bank to over $17 billion in assets.
Wow.
And that's in a 20-year period, and that's phenomenal growth, and they're continuing to grow. So it's exciting to be part of a company that is growing, and you always want to be a part of an organization that's expanding and growing and not shrinking.
That's right. But
that would cover Tom's paycheck, by the way.
Right, and that is a good point. And we try to teach that in entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
Be in an industry that's growing. Yes.
Exactly.
And CenterState, even you mentioned terms of assets but in terms of real estate too. As I travel the state now, I see CenterState banks really almost every place I go in the state of Florida.
And they've done it through acquisition and some de novo branches, but through acquisition, they've had over 20 acquisitions of other smaller banks that they've been able to pull together and create CenterState from all of these acquisitions. So it's been a pathway to growth, but now we want to continue to grow organically. As the state continues to grow, we're positioned to take advantage of all the growth that's happening in Florida.
Yeah. And I was someplace just the other day and someone spoke. Oh, I know where we were. We were at I was at the training that we're going to talk about. But the young man, Mr. Maxwell from CenterState Bank spoke. Yes. And I love the way he put it. He said, yes, we've grown, but really, I think he said something like, at our core, we're still a community bank. I mean,
and that's correct. And because the bank started in Winter Haven, which is in the core center of the state, and we are truly banking the fabric of these small communities where CenterState operates. We're not so much a bank that's in the larger metropolitan areas. We're in most of the rural, small markets and assisting small business owners, which truly are the fabric of those communities.
Was it largely ag at the very beginning?
Yes, a lot of ag. We still have a lot. We have an ag lending. We have an ag lender here on the Treasure Coast. We do ag lending. We'll make loans on cattle. So few banks will even touch ag anymore. But we are one of the few that is doing ag lending.
Nice. Okay. I think the January issue of the Treasure Coast Business is gonna have some ag stories. So. I was talking to someone the other day about ag and about potentially doing some coverage in the magazine on ag, and they said, that's great, Tom. It's nice to remind people that we are still here.
Right.
So that's good.
Exactly.
So certainly CenterState recognizes that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Steve, we talked about it earlier. We've got a long history of working together. You and I specifically, and CenterState and the SBDC. You guys have been very innovative in partnering with us on a number of programs. But even recently, you guys have really stepped outside the box and done some very innovative things with bringing training to small business owners and operators. Right now, we are currently partnering on a program that we're called Excellence in Nonprofits. And you guys are sponsoring some training that's targeting nonprofits, business training, accounting training to really, help these nonprofits, run a tighter business and understand, and enhance their skill sets in business. Talk a little bit about that program.
Thank you, Tom. And yes, the college is such a great resource, and there's so much valuable talent at the college to help our small businesses and our nonprofits especially. They're all out there serving our community, just like we're serving our community. And what better way than to help our nonprofits have a better opportunity to improve their cash flow, improve how they can help the community. And so by having these classes, we are providing those scholarships. And I think the response was overwhelming. It exceeded all expectations, with 35 individuals signing up for the first set of classes for our nonprofit excellence in nonprofits. So right there speaks volumes. The need was there, and we recognize the need, and we're providing that. And the college is providing wonderful training, wonderful curriculum, and you can see by the response it was definitely needed.
Yeah. We were, class filled up very quickly. It was quite impressive. We looked up and there was 35 in the class. Right. So it was nice to see. Another program that we've partnered on in the past, very excited about this partnership, is your sponsorship and support of what we call the Profit Mastery training program. And as I talked a little earlier in the program about Profit Mastery is a training program that the SBDC uses, which really helps a business drive better financial performance, for the business owners. Really a very, engaged training program to take a business owner step by step, through their financials and identify those gaps in cash flow, and better manage those financials. Talk a little bit about that partnership.
Yes, Tom. And again, we want all of our small businesses to be successful. If they're banking with us, we want to help them become more successful. And by putting them in this program, by providing the funding to sponsor individual business owners so that they can work with a professional at the college to better understand their cash flow, better understand how they can hopefully borrow money to expand their company. We hate to tell someone no, but if we tell them no, we want to make sure that they understand why we're saying no. And a lot of our small business owners are outstanding at their trade, but sometimes struggle with the business, running the business, and especially with the cash flow. Right. And we want to help them get to that next level and understanding their own financials, their balance sheets, their profit and loss, and having a better we've seen financials where their cost of goods are too high, the salaries that they're paying, or the staff, their cost of just their expenses sometimes are out of line, and they're not realizing it because they're so busy working in their business. We look at their balance sheet and we see those percentages are way out of line. You want to help that business owner. We don't want to just say no. We want to help them.
And, every time the Florida SBDC network surveys businesses out there in Florida and says, what are the issues affecting you in the marketplace, the number one response that always comes back year after year is access to capital. I mean, businesses need access to capital to grow. Talk a little bit about the need. Why does a company need to take on debt to grow? What would be an example of that?
And sometimes it's just to manage their inventory. They need maybe a line of credit to better manage their inventory so they can grow the business, grow their bottom line by just managing their inventory better. That's one
perfect example. Yeah. So in order, the issue is, though, if you need this capital and you go to the bank to get a line of credit or buy a new location to expand or something along those lines, you've got to have a very tight set of financials, do you not? I mean, you can't.
That's correct.
You can't kind of walk in with the shoebox
right.
of receipts and expect the bank to really kind of take you seriously on a loan.
Not only that, but even having a proper plan of action as to what you want to do with the money, detailed plan, how you want to make that money work for you and work for your company, and so often it's not there.
Right. And you kind of alluded to it that it's about cash flow too. The bank's going to want to make sure that you have the cash flow necessary to make the payments. Is that?
That's correct. Yes, and it is all about cash flow. But if the business owner, and that's what's so beautiful about Profit Mastery, is it helps the business owner understand how the cash flow works, how that faucet turns on and how it runs through their business, that cash flow. And if they understand how the cash flow runs through their business, they can better manage that cash flow so that they can grow their business and they can borrow money.
Right. And again, CenterState has come to the college and come to the Florida SBDC, and you've actually offered some funding to help scholarship some folks through this program.
That's correct, Tom. We want to, identify those individuals that can truly benefit from Profit Mastery, and we're willing to pay for the course so that those individuals can go through it. Okay. It's taking a small business and improving what they're already doing. They may have their wonderful trade, but everyone can get better. We all can improve.
Right. So within that Profit Mastery program, you've got financial position, evaluate the financial performance of your company using ratios, understanding break-even analysis, using your income statement as a management tool, cash flows we talked about, create a projected income statement and related cash budget, forecasting, manage the growth, again, calculating those financial gaps, sustainable growth rates, and then finally banks and transition, dealing with banks and bankers, alternative sources of funds, and planning for that business transition. So again, awful powerful program, and here you are offering it to folks. I mean,
exactly. And I think, Tom, the wonderful aspect of Profit Mastery is they get to work with their own financials. That company brings their own financials in, and you sit down with them and work through their own financials. And so it's not a case study, it's the study of their own business, and I think that's the beautiful aspect of it.
And I want to move to a really important topic. CenterState has come out with a new program, which is, again, addresses this whole access to capital issue that so many small business owners face, and it's called Business Lending Express. Talk a little bit about this Business Lending Express product.
Well, thank you, Tom. And again, it's a streamlined underwriting process where we look at for lower dollars, and these are for a lot of our small businesses that need just a small $25,000 equipment loan or $50,000 truck loan, or again, lines of credit to help them maybe get through the season. And there is a lot of seasonality in some of our small businesses here in the Treasure Coast. So we have these products, and we're working with our small businesses so that they can, with 1 year's business tax return, personal tax return, loans over $75,000, we're able to work with them. Loans under $75,000 with good credit, we just want to see an invoice and purchase order. These are things that we're trying to streamline the process. We can turn these around in just a couple days, have approvals back within as quickly as you provide us the information. So your lines of credit, your owner occupied, you're wanting to purchase a small office, warehouse. There's a lot of that in this market, and there's a tremendous need for it right now. I think there's even a shortage. But those owner-occupied small business owners, we have the products and can turn it around rapidly. And the small businesses are truly the backbone of our community here. So we wanted to have a product. Interest rates on it are very, very attractive. Prime is at 5 right now. But these rates are outstanding for equipment and vehicles. Even up to 84 months, we'll lend. The rates are anywhere from 5% to 8%. So depending on the,
it's a lot lower than a dealer,
right? Yeah, exactly.
No, seriously.
Yeah. So for equipment, trailers, used vehicles, whatever it may be. It might even be lending on your accounts receivable and your inventory. If you've been in business a while, you've built up a strong accounts receivable, we'll be glad to look at that. So there's so many different ways that we can lend money to small businesses, but we have to have you be there for us to work with you. We want to help you so we can, even if there's maybe you're concerned about whether you can borrow the money, we'll sit down and help you and get you in a position so that you can. In other words, almost like a loan clinic. We will sit down with you and provide you a clinic on how to borrow the money, what you need to be, and where you need to be to borrow the funds. So the documentation is minimal, interest rates are good right now, and it's basically an express loan to our business owners. Also, so many of our small business owners go out on the internet, they find some of these loans that are out there. Right. It looks like a quick turnaround. The interest rates they're quoting to them but once the final paperwork comes and you get your loan, the rates are nowhere close to that, and it's almost predatory lending.
Right, but with CenterState, obviously, you're dealing with a community bank that's here
exactly.
that you potentially even have your commercial checking account with.
Right.
So you're dealing with people you know. This isn't like you're saying some television ad of a quick loan. This
exactly.
dealing with legitimate, textbook bankers.
And someone who's going to sit down and look at your financials and walk you through it and help you and understands the percentages, understands the need to work with our small business owners.
Well, again, I can't stress enough. I just spent, I think it was last week, I was in a SBDC network meeting, and there was a couple of hours spent talking about the issue of access to capital for small business.
Yep.
It really is the number one issue that a small business owner faces is trying to get the necessary capital in the business to grow and expand.
Exactly.
You know what some of our smaller clients had to really struggle with was Hurricane Dorian.
Right.
Now, they may have closed their business. They
Right.
may have boarded up for a week, maybe
Right.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then all
Good
of a
point.
sudden, then they have to basically build their business back up
Exactly.
again.
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. No.
Exactly.
No. Excellent point. I mean, you could. There were lots of folks up and down the Treasure Coast and that was a holiday weekend.
Right.
And so a lot of small hotels, canceled, reservations for the
bet.
holiday weekend, and restaurants, and so absolutely. So those are the kind of loans that are tough to get for a small business, like you said, Steve. The $25,000, the $50,000, the $75,000 amounts.
Exactly. And a lot of our small businesses are here. They're in the service community. They're servicing or they're working with our larger companies that are here. They may be an ancillary type business, and those individuals need that assistance. They need the help to grow their business and to support what they're doing.
Well, CenterState, you've got a great loan product, and you're helping by sponsoring and scholarshiping some training in the area of finance. So.
I think knowledge creates that power and enthusiasm and with knowledge, understanding your financials, you can truly grow your company if you understand your financials and understand how you can take that cash flow and have it work for you.
Right. And build some true wealth in these small businesses.
Exactly.
That's
It's
really
true.
What it's
and
all
that's
about.
what we want to do.
As we kind of come to a close here with our good friend Steve, talk a little bit about the marketplace. I mean, are things as hot as we hear they are out there along the Treasure Coast?
They are. The Treasure Coast is doing very well. We were just looking at kind of an economic forecasting and the picture that we have. Yeah, granted, you hear all the things. There's an inverted yield curve, and with that comes a recession.
Here we go.
All those things. But here we're in great shape. We're seeing home sales in just St. Lucie County are up like 13%. People are coming here. You have the Cleveland Clinic coming here. I ran into a gentleman that has just moved here from Pennsylvania, where his criteria was it's a safe place to live. It has great medical. It has affordable housing. Had everything that he was looking for he and his wife to retire here. So we're seeing people, and they're going to keep coming to the Treasure Coast. I think we have so much to offer, and with the college here, we have even more to offer.
Yeah.
Big news with U.S. News and World Report that came out on Wednesday night. Port St. Lucie was listed as number 5 in the United States places to retire. Sarasota was there, Fort Myers and Naples, and then we were there at number 5. So, yeah, phenomenal.
Well, as a couple of times, we always refer back to our good friend Dr. Jerry Parrish, chief economist at the Florida Chamber Foundation. But to your point just now, Jerry said, the old model in Florida was you built a golf course, build homes around it. The new model is you build a hospital, and you build homes around it.
Yeah.
So to your point, and also over 900 folks, probably upwards of 950, 960, moving to the state of Florida every single day.
Yes.
So it's coming.
When we're seeing it. We're seeing it. We're growing.
It was funny. Ken Pruitt at the opening of the Crosstown Parkway was telling us, he said, we haven't seen anything research-wise yet. He said, it's coming. And he said it's going to be very, very exciting, especially on the southwest side of the city.
Right.
Yes.
All sectors, Steve. I mean, home building, retail.
All sectors
all your clients are seeing it and doing well.
We're doing well. Especially we have a lot of individuals in the construction industry that are all doing well. You know, everything from the roofer to the general contractor, they're doing well.
Okay.
And even our small businesses are feeding off of that, and it's good.
Steve, again, I cannot thank you enough for your support, your partnership, your collaboration of our program, the Florida Small Business Development Center at Indian River State College. You and your team and CenterState have just really always been there when we needed you to support programs, and you share our vision of providing the Treasure Coast with solid business training, and we do appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom, and we're glad to be here.
And we appreciate your new Business Lending Express, and that's going to be a useful product, I think, for us.
Very will be.
With that, we will just take a quick break. Don't go anyplace. We'll be right back with more Small Biz Florida. And we are back. This is Small Biz Florida from the Dan K. Richardson Entrepreneurship Development Institute at Indian River State College. I am Tom Kindred, and I serve as the Regional Director for the Florida Small Business Development Center here at IRSC. And for our second guest this evening, got a good friend and a legacy business owner and operator along the Treasure Coast, our good friend, Mr. Chris Humphreys. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate being here.
Chris is the owner and operator, along with his wife, of a legendary restaurant that I've spent a lot of time in through my years growing up around the Fort Pierce area. It is DINO's restaurant, and as my mother says, it's the restaurant up on the hill.
That's good.
Fort Pierce.
Family restaurant.
That's right, family restaurant. So again, we as the folks that are regular listeners, I try to every now and again bring in some what we like to call legacies of business around our marketplace, and DINO certainly fits that bill as a legacy business. So again, Chris, I appreciate you taking time out this evening to come and share the story of DINO's family restaurant with us. But start real quickly with just a little background on you, kind of your pathway to Fort Pierce and your pathway to DINO's.
Well, I came to Fort Pierce in 1981, 82, and we were doing some dredge boat work here, and there were very few restaurants in Fort Pierce, and we decided that we'd look around a little bit, and we happened to go north of Fort Pierce, and we saw this little restaurant called DINO's Family Restaurant that had just opened, and it was a very small, kind of an ugly place, and there were a lot of cars outside. So we figured that would be the place to go and see what's going on. And after our first trip in there, we were eating there every single day. And I started dating one of the servers in there, which was Darlene. And we kept, in touch after we left Fort Pierce, and ended up getting married a couple years later.
Wow.
And her dad asked me if I would be interested in maybe, learning the restaurant business, and I decided that I would give it a shot. What I have to lose. My brothers were running the dredging place, so I could always go back to work there if I had to.
All right.
And lo and behold, I've been there 36 years now.
My God.
That is so cool.
What an incredible story.
Yeah.
That's just the truth.
It's right. You can't make this stuff up. Talk a little bit about the history of your father-in-law. He has owned multiple. Yeah, we don't have enough time, I don't think, on this segment of the show.
We can hit this, yeah.
But got to give us the high points. He has been in the restaurant business for years around these parts.
My father-in-law was a legend here in Fort Pierce. He came to Fort Pierce. His name is Hercules P. Christ. That was his name. He was from the island of Cyprus, which is a small island off the Greek islands, and he was a Cypriot. People get that confused. They say he was a Greek, but he was a Cypriot. And he came to Fort Pierce in 1965, and he opened Crystal's Restaurant downtown. He bought Crystal's Restaurant. It was already there in 1964. And he stayed there for 11 years, and he did breakfast and lunch. Mm-hmm. And it was a very popular place across from the courthouse, and his meals were very cheap, 65, 70, 80 cents, $1 you could get out of there with lunch, so it was very popular. And then he moved to Chris's restaurant. which is now was the last time it was Allen's Diner, and then it was Lindsay's, and it's shut down right now. But that was his gold mine. He did breakfast, lunch, and dinner there 7 days a week, and he was so busy that he brought in a couple of his nephews from Cyprus, and he worked them 7 days a week in this restaurant, and they definitely put in their time. And
Wow.
it was a great restaurant. And then he sold Chris's, and then he started DINO's restaurant in 1982. He had a no-compete where he couldn't open up for breakfast and lunch, but he could open up for dinner. So he decided he was going to get back in the game, and he just moved a mile north of Chris's restaurant and opened up DINO's, and there he was, doing dinners, and that's when I fell into the trap.
Wow. Unbelievable.
That's great.
And in my lifetime, I have eaten as a child I sat on those stools at Crystal's restaurant downtown, and ate breakfast and lunch with my grandfather and father, and of course ate at Allen's Diner up on the highway, and now eat at DINO's. So really an incredible legacy of business here in St. Lucie County and in Fort Pierce. Always obviously been a family-owned, restaurant. You and Darlene are still in there today. A lot of people talk about the downsides to family, but you guys really have a great operation, and talk a little bit about working with Darlene and having family in. Is that important? Does it help when you run a restaurant like you guys do?
Well, I couldn't do it without my wife, Darlene. There's no way. She took a weekend off here about a month ago, and it felt like the wheels fell off out in the front there. And I never thought I'd say these words, but it's absolutely true. Family plays a key part because you have eyes in the front, you have eyes in the back, and but being successful, you have to be surrounded by really good people, and we've been very fortunate to get good people and hold on to them. So that is very important. As far as my kids, they worked in the restaurant, when they were in high school. They bussed tables and did odd jobs, but they saw how many hours that we put in every single week, day in and day out, and working every weekend, that the first chance they got to go to college, they took off and they went, and they never looked back. They decided that a different career was good for them, and to this day, they make more money than me, and they work a whole lot less hours. So I think that was a smart move on their part.
Well, and again, Chris, you are, in terms of small business and entrepreneurship, you are a textbook small business owner and operator, and certainly, very innovative thinking business owner, and we're going to get to that in just a minute, some of the things you do, but talk about the challenges, of owning and operating a small business like you do.
Well, there's several challenges. It used to be much, I wouldn't say easier, it was easier. That's the way I need to put it. There were a lot less restaurants in Fort Pierce than there are today when we were very successful many years ago. When we started out being successful. And the rooftops haven't grown as much as the restaurants have expanded in Fort Pierce. So that's a good point to make. We don't have a whole lot more rooftops, but being successful is being there every single day. You have to be in this restaurant every single day. You have to work. You can't sit back and think that you're going to be an owner and other people are going to do the work and you're just going to oversee. It doesn't work anything like that. We don't open till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we close at 9, and we're open 6 days a week, and we do lunch on Sundays. But I'm there at 7:15 every single morning taking deliveries, and we're not a heat and eat kind of a restaurant. We start from scratch, and we have to do everything, and our menu is so huge that we have to put in our hours to get this done every single day. And it doesn't matter whether you're slow or busy. It's just about the amount of quantity that you do. So you're still doing the same amount of work every single day, and it takes up the same amount of time whether you're doing 100 dinners a night or you're doing 300 dinners a night.
Yeah. Go back to your father-in-law for a minute and talk a little bit about his entrepreneurial business mindset. He was obviously a very accomplished cook and obviously loved the work. What were his kind of philosophies about business?
Man, he was a great businessman. He taught me everything that I know about this restaurant. And Pop always said, anybody can go and make a restaurant, but making money in the restaurant is a big deal. You have to know how to make money. And he knew how to make money, and it takes a lot of work on your part. He always told me that if you're not willing to work 3 jobs in the restaurant and draw 3 paychecks, you would never make a living doing this job. And so much of the stuff that he taught me, I remember. And, and it's not to buy expensive foods. He was always buying, cheaper foods, not cheap quality, but just cheaper foods that you could, turn over and make a buck.
Right.
Nowadays, you buy filet mignon, you buy shrimp, you buy oysters and all that. There's not a lot of profit in that. And he was the bacon and eggs kind of guy,
Right.
If it only cost me 50 cents to put it out, just charge $2 for it. You know what I mean? You don't have to charge $5 or $6. And he was always the get more people in the door, charge less money, and you'll be successful. And he was very, very smart. Very, very smart.
Talk about if you had to describe DINO's restaurant. I mean, the name is DINO's Family Restaurant, and it's, like you said, very a generous offering on the menu. Just to kind of describe the type of restaurant you are.
Well, we're a family restaurant. I don't think you see a lot of family restaurants, and when I mean family restaurant, I mean, we serve from 3 years old to 100 years old, and we have something on the menu for everybody. That's the key to it. We're not just a pizza place. We're not just a Chinese restaurant. We have people that come in 6 days a week from Vero Beach. They've been coming there for years and years and years because we offer such a variety of different foods there. We're very friendly. We're very studious to be on top of everything. Our servers are just great people, and again, we're just a well-oiled machine that has lots of years in doing the same thing over and over again. So after 35 years, you pretty much, got to know what you're doing.
And when you go in there, you see a lot of familiar faces, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. We've seen children that have come in here that are now 30 years old, and they're bringing their kids in.
Right.
So I've seen these kids that have been 1, 2 years old that are now 30, 33, and they're bringing their families in there. And we have a great support system. We have some customers that have been there since day one, and they're still coming at least once a week, and it's phenomenal. I mean, we have some really, really, really good customers. All our customers are good customers.
Yeah. And you talked about your staff, and that was one thing I always like to ask small business owners and operators. It is so important to have that team. Talk about your team. You said you've had the same people, and that's really got to make a big difference for a small business owner.
It's a key. It is a key to a successful business. I really wasn't going to say this on the show, but I've had my dishwasher for 25 years, and I hope nobody comes and tries to steal him from me, but that's just about unheard of in this business, to have a guy that's been with you for 25 years. Yeah. I've had some servers that have been with me for 16, 17, 18 years that ended up retiring because they got of age and they just couldn't do it. It's very physical being in the restaurant business, and everything has to move fast. There's no slow pace to it at all. And just right now, I've got another guy that's been with me for about 15, 16 years in the kitchen, and he's really a great guy. And his mom's worked for me for many years, too, and she's retired. So, it's very, very key, and you have to treat them good. And it says something about yourself when you have people that have been there for that long a time. If you don't treat them good, they're not going to stay. No. So, I've made my mistakes, don't get me wrong, but I've learned over time that, this is the key element to a successful restaurant, is the people you surround yourself around.
Talk a little bit, too, as a business owner and operator. Talk about the marketplace. You talked about, the more restaurants, but the rooftops haven't come. What other changes have you seen in the marketplace? You kind of allude to the fact that it was a little busier years ago. What are you seeing out there in the marketplace?
Well, I see a lot of chain restaurants. I believe in another 10 years you won't find a restaurant like DINO's restaurant, because it's just a lot of hard work. A lot of these other restaurants now, they have this complicated machinery that does a lot of jobs that we do by hand. And also you see everything's turning automated. If you go into any chain restaurant, you're going to see a lot of automation in the restaurant. It's like McDonald's. The French fries drop down and they come up on their own, and they just about dump, and they about put themselves in a container by themselves.
Yeah,
so
good point.
This is just definitely a lot of work. And again, it's unique, and there's been a lot of changes in the industry. A lot of heat and eat stuff goes out now, where they buy it. I mean, the food industry's changed a whole lot too. You can just about buy anything that's ready to go, but the quality of it isn't going to be, what it is if you start from scratch and do it yourself.
Yeah. Now, I want to make sure we get to the most important thing. Is kind of the marketing and the promotions that you do. You really do an incredible job. You are really an out-of-the-box thinker when it comes to kind of doing special events at the restaurant. And one of the things that year after year I've seen you do, awful lot of hard work, but really unique is your Halloween setup at the restaurant. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you call it like spooky dining. And you have an actual miniature haunted house in the restaurant. I mean, it's incredible. Talk about the spooky dining at DINO's.
I'll tell you how this all started. About 6 years ago, I noticed that Septembers and Octobers were kind of slow. It's just always been a slow month in the restaurant industry. September's for everybody, not just for us. So one day I'm rooting around in the attic, and I see all this Halloween stuff that when we used to have parties with our children when they were younger and we did an adult party, we had some pretty cool stuff. So one day I decided to drag it all out, and I said, I'm going to take this to the restaurant and start doing a little decorating. My father-in-law thought I was nuts. He said, you people going to ruin the business with this stuff right here. And so I started scattering around and hanging it up, and people started responding to it. They were like, man, this is really cool. We dig Halloween. So every year it got bigger and bigger, and then we started putting in our little spooky back tour in the back. And since then, this thing has just really grown, and it's actually become a real pain in the butt to say because it's a lot of work. I mean, I know I have 120, 140.
I think pain in the butt is an understatement if you go see this, but go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I probably have 140, 150, 160 hours just in decorating the restaurant, and it's not easy what we do, and we change it every single year in the back, which is a big hurdle because sometimes we just don't know what to do, but we have to come up with something better than the year before. So this year we have the Haunted Farm, and it's really cool. After everybody gets their dinner, everybody gets their own private tour, their family, of the haunted tour in the back, and we take everybody back there individually, as a family, and we show it to them, and they always come out in awe. We don't make it really scary. It has to be fun. That's what we do because we have kids from 2 years old, and even the adults in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, they think this thing is great. They really, really love it. So we've and Facebook has been a really, really huge tool for us. We throw a few snippets of videos and stuff out there, and people see this, and they're like, man, they pass it to their friends and everything, and they say, man, we really got to go check this out. And we have the orange and the purple and the green neon lights on the outside of it, the restaurant, and when the sun goes down, people ride by and they say, man, what is it with all those lights and everything? And it's spooky dining. Everybody needs to check out spooky dining.
Spooky dining. So before, as we kind of get to the close here, tell us what address of DINO's, phone number of DINO's, how do people find DINO's?
All right, DINO's is on the corner of Juanita and US 1, just north of the Northbridge Causeway on US 1, and our phone number is 772-465-5217, and our address is 2001 North US Highway 1 in Fort Pierce, just north of the North Bridge there. And if you're going to come and you have more than 5 people, we would appreciate a phone call up front letting us know, because we try to have a table ready for you when you walk in the door. A lot of times we get 10s and 12s and 14s that walk in, and it's a little challenging to get everybody seated right away. So we'd like to, get the heads up if you can, but we're right there for you. We're open from Tuesday through Saturday from 4 to 9. We just do dinner from 4 to 9. And then on Sundays, we do lunch and dinner 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. And Mondays, we are closed. So that's our hours and that's our location. And we'll do small parties, large parties, holiday parties. We accommodate anybody. If you're having a birthday party, we have a private room for you. So just give us a call and we'll work with you and try to accommodate all your needs.
Yeah. it really is a very unique place, and as my mother would say, it's up on the hill on US 1, just north of the North Bridge. And really, you guys do such a great job with the product and with the food, and it's the one thing I can always say about DINO's is it is consistent. I love the Italian food, and every time I go, it is the same as the last time. So very consistent.
Well, consistency is just the biggest major thing in the restaurant. You have to be consistent. We have people year in and year out come from up north, snowbirds, and they say, man, this tastes the same as it has for 20 years. There's no change at all. It's just good. And
that's because you've been in the kitchen for 30 years.
That's exactly right. We don't switch chefs. We don't switch recipes. We stay the same because we have a good product and it's successful.
All right. So as I always like to do real quick, you get your 30 seconds here. Your advice for aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners, what would you tell them?
I'd say to stay away from the restaurant. I'd say there's many more ways to make a living. If I could do it all over again, I don't think that I would do the restaurant because that's 60, 70 hours every single day, and somebody doesn't show up, it doesn't matter. You still have to turn that key and open that door up and be ready with a smile on your face. So, but the restaurant is very, very challenging, and I would really recommend most people get a good education and start a different career. That would be my...
What would you have done if you didn't have the restaurant?
You know, after all these years, if you asked me that, I would say that I would have gotten a job with maybe the government or the city or something like that with a good retirement plan. I wasn't taught anything about retirement plans when I was younger, and I'm definitely seeing the effects of it now.
Well, all right, there you have it. Entrepreneurship, good. Restaurant business, tough. So, Chris, thank you for taking time out. A legacy of business up at DINO's restaurant. Everybody has got to go there and see Spooky Dining this month, and then you'll just keep going because the food is that good. With that, we'll bring to close another segment of Small Biz Florida. Remember, you can always check us out and see what's going on in the world of business training and assistance by visiting IRSC. biz.com. That's www.irscbiz.com. And with that, always thank our partners here at WPSL and WSTU. And with that, we'll talk to you next week on Small Biz Florida.
And if you want a copy of the magazine,
call me 462-7631 and I'll bring one to you.
All right. You've been listening to Small Biz Florida right here on WPSL Port St. Lucie, WPSL.com. Worldwide on Alexa and Google Home.